In the last section, we realized that we needed a way to get our app to call an action creator to fetch data whenever the list of blog posts is displayed to the user. We decided that a good place to do that would be the component will mount lifecycle method in the post index component. Again, this method is a lifecycle method, so it is automatically called by React whenever this component is about to be rendered to the DOM for the first time. In this section, we're going to hook up our fetch posts action creator to the component will mount method. That way, whenever the component is about to mount, the data will automatically start to load up for us. As usual, to give our React component the ability to call an action creator, we need to promote it from a component to a container. Now in the past, we moved all of our container components out to a separate folder, but in this app, most of our components are going to end up as containers, so we're just going to let all of our containers live inside of the components folder just to avoid any confusion. Remember the process for creating a container that can call action creators. First, we import connect at the top. Then we import our action creator. We define our map dispatch to props function, and we connect it to our component. So let's go ahead and do that now. At the top, we'll do a few of our imports. So we'll import connect from React Redux. We'll import bind action creators from Redux. And we'll import fetch posts from actions index. This is our action creator that we want to call inside of component will mount here. So at the bottom, we'll define our function map dispatch to props. We get our dispatch, and then we will return bind action creators fetch posts with dispatch. And then we'll go ahead and connect our component with our function here, map dispatch to props, connect. And remember, the first argument to our connect function is usually map state to props. And in this case, we don't have that function. We've only got map dispatch to props. So we will, for our first argument here, we'll pass in null, again, because we don't have any state that we want to map over just yet. We will in a little bit, not yet though. So we'll say map dispatch to props, and then a separate set of parentheses, we'll do post index right here. So remember, this gives us access to this.props.fetchPosts, and so we can now go ahead and call it inside of component will mount. So we'll say this.props fetch posts. Cool. I think we're ready for a test in our browser. I'm going to pull Chrome back open here, and I'm going to swap over to our network tab so we can see any network requests that are being made. I'll go ahead and refresh, and you'll see that we get our network request showing up here. Perfect. Specifically, we've got a post to the a GET request to the post endpoint. I see the key on here. We got a status of 200, and as a preview, we got empty array back. We don't have any posts yet, so right now it's just an empty array, no posts. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. I'm going to flip back over to our component here. Now, this is looking good. You know, we've got the code in here, our map dispatch to props, just as we've defined before. But there's one refactor that I want to do here. In the past, in all of our projects so far, we've gone through this kind of boilerplate with map dispatch to props here. I want to show you a little bit of a shortcut that avoids this added complexity, this added boilerplate right here. I'm going to go ahead and delete this entire function right here. And instead, we're going to just pass in an object that says fetch posts, like so. So instead of going through the process of binding our action creators and map dispatch to props and all that stuff, we're going to pass in just an object here that says fetch posts. So what this does is it's just a shortcut. It's a little helper. It's still going to give us access to this.props.fetchPosts inside of our component, but without the added boilerplate of map dispatch to props. Let's go ahead and refresh just to make sure it still works. And yep, it looks like it does. We're still correctly calling the dispatch. So this is great. It's a nice little shortcut that just saves us some code. There is one little refactor here. We can use a little bit of ES6. Because we've got the same key as the value here, we can actually condense this down to just looking like so. So we've got fetch post surrounded by curly braces. Remember, this is ES6 syntax. It's completely identical to writing fetch posts, fetch posts. It's just a little bit of a shorthand with ES6. Okay, so let's review here real quick. Our strategy for fetching data is to dispatch an action whenever the post index component is about to be rendered to the DOM. Pretty straightforward. In our application right here, this is a pretty easy decision. We know exactly when we want to load our data. It's whenever post index is about to be mounted to the DOM. You'll come to find on your own apps in the future that start to get a little bit more complicated, a little bit more complex. Knowing when to fetch your data starts to get a little bit more confusing. It's not always quite so black and white as it is in this application. So in your own application, do put some careful thought into where you want to make your action creator call, where you want to start your data fetching process from. Okay, one last little refactor here. We don't need our bind action creators call at the top, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that line. Cool, looks good. Let's go ahead and continue in the next section.